Well, what's up, everybody? Hope you've had a great week. And today, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the madness that we're witnessing heading into the upcoming 2022 midterm season. So, first of all, I have up in the background here from Real Clear Politics, it's a map of them kind of predicting and trying to break down some of the upcoming Senate races. So right now, as you can see, they have it split pretty much as close as they can get, with Republicans coming up with 46, Democrats leaning 45, and 9 in the air. So see toss-ups in Arizona, Georgia. Oh my God, I always get it's Iowa. Anyway, multiple toss-up states. Now, the one I want to point you to right here is North Carolina. You'll see it right down here. Both the Carolinas are looked at as a bit of a toss-up heading into the Senate election. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is a story that I actually talked about a little while ago, about a few weeks ago. However, it's come back up again. So just for a little bit of a brief recap, heading back to the beginning of the month, powerful Democratic law firm intervened in North Carolina Green Party certification. So I'll watch the video right now. I watched it last time. But anyway, when the North Carolina Green Party was trying to get their party back on the ballot heading into the 2022 midterm elections, they received I guess not abnormal, unfortunately, for third parties, but they received a very large amount of pushback. This included all the way down to Democrats paying people to go door to door to people who signed the petition to put the Green Party on the ballot and kindly recommend that they remove their names from this petition. So it goes through here. On Thursday, the State Board of Elections, will be Thursday at the beginning of the month, voted 3-2 to deny the Green Party certification, citing concerns of fraud. The vote was taken along party lines, with all the Democrats voting against certification. Pat Gannon, the spokesperson for the State Board, said the individuals being investigated are suspecting of being responsible for well over 2,000 signatures. Now, the Green Party in North Carolina has responded to this, and they responded in part with a lawsuit. Now, I don't want to get through the whole thing because some of it's a little bit, I don't know if conspiratorial is a word, but some of it's a little bit hard to prove, and a lot of it's just kind of boring jargon and boring lingo. Anyway, though, one thing I thought would be interesting is to get down to some of the things they're accusing the Democrats of doing to prevent them from showing up on the ballot. So let's get into this. First, they mentioned that the way that they gathered the signatures was as legitimate or as valid as it could be. This, I don't know, only put so much weight into it. However, that's not what's interesting. This is what is interesting. Sorry, I was going a little bit further. Their allegations of Democratic Party operatives' influence with the North Carolina Green Party's petition drive. So let's go into some of the things they are being accused of doing. So allegation number one is that, first one's about two allegations combined. They're alleging that Elizabeth Polston, an attorney for the Ellis Law Group, pulled a public records request from the North Carolina State Board of Equalization that sought a wide range of information and data related to the Green Party's petition to become a recognized political party. They're alleging some collusion between Amelia Brown, who is a staffer in the North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into this because this is kind of the more conspiratorial lens. However, this is what's interesting. They're alleging, and some of this stuff, if they can back it up, this is some pretty crazy stuff. So they're alleging that on June 22nd, 2022, North Carolina Green Party petition signers began receiving multiple phone calls and text messages daily from unknown individuals who requested they remove their names from the petition. Individuals stated they were making the request because the Green Party takes votes from Democrats. In some instances, the individuals declined to identify themselves, and others they stated they were calling on behalf of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, DSCC, and still in other instances, the individuals fraudulently claimed to be representatives of the Green Party. And this is kind of what I want to get into. Some of the things they're alleging here, I don't know how they're not, I guess it's a lawsuit, but I don't know how this stuff is not considered as a actual crime and looked at more legally. Anyway, though, let's get into some of them. They're pretty interesting. So, June 22nd, 2022, Drew Hicks received a call from 919-887-7690. Caller asked him to remove his name from the petition. Mr. X declined, and the caller stated that the call was made on behalf of the DSCC, which again is the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, which is pretty suspicious. Anyway, let's move forward. They allege that on June 24th, 2022, a Jen Truman received a call from someone who asked her to confirm whether she had signed the petitions. When she did, the caller asked her to remove her name from the petitions because the North Carolina Green Party takes votes from Democrats. Truman declined, and the caller hung up. Now, again, before getting too far into this, I'm not necessarily sympathetic to the Green Party. I'm not a member of the Green Party. I'm not super invested in what's going on with the North Carolina Green Party. However, the shamelessness some of these tactics we get into them is the kind of stuff that is a little bit, if this is what is going on just to keep the Green Party off a ballot in North Carolina, because again, that is looked at as one of the bigger battleground states, again, just a Senate map, but in general, heading into this 2022 midterm, what else is going on? But we'll keep going. We'll see what else happens. They allege on June 24th, a Clinton-y body received multiple phone calls from a 980 number. When he answered, the caller asked him to remove his name from the petitions because the North Carolina Green Party will take votes away from Democrats. Caller told a Baldy the call was calling from the call center, but would not identify which one. Baldy asked on whose behalf the caller was calling, and the caller stated, "I am not given that information." He alleged he also received text messages which asked him to remove his name from the petitions. One of the texts included the following link, and mostly for legal terms, basically it's a dead link now, but it was a link to a DocuSign. Then, on or about June 25th, 2022, a Janet Nagel received a call from a woman who stated she was calling for the Green Party and asked whether she would remove her name from the petition. When she declined, On June 24th, plaintiff Mohammed and his wife both received several phone calls from unrecognized numbers. The plaintiff answered one such call, and the caller asked him to remove his name from the North Carolina Green Party's petition because, once again, it would hurt Democrats. Plaintiff was confused because he thought the caller was a representative of the North Carolina State Board of Equalization and declined to remove his name. Caller repeated the request, and he declined again. And before ending the call, the caller identified herself as calling on behalf of, once again, the DSCC. And they alleged to receive more and more calls, And then it continues. On or about June 24th, the Kylie and Rooks received very similar calls. June 25th, this is the one that's really interesting to me and the one I kind of wanted to go to. They mentioned Plaintiff Ho. It's worth mentioning this is one of the individuals who filed the lawsuit and also is running for Senate in the state of North Carolina. So anyway, this man running for Senate in the state of North Carolina receives a text from 919-300, or I guess a 919 number, asking him to confirm whether he signed the petition. He did, and the texter asked him to remove his name from the petition. The plaintiff declined. He then received another text from the same number repeating the request and stating that, quote, the Green Party takes votes away from the Democrats, end quote. Plaintiff once again declined. He then received another text repeating the request and stating, we want to make sure the Democratic candidates have the best chance to win this November. Now, again, this individual running against the Democrats, running on behalf of the Green Party, was not too persuaded by this argument. Leading into another one, Emily Pruzitsky received the same text message that plaintiff received. It was sent to her father Mike's phone number, yada yada. Anyway, though, State Board of Equalization, that is, I have to be honest, I can't tell you, I top of my head couldn't say exactly what it is, but they handle a lot of stuff like this. A lot of election stuff, a lot of, I've had to deal with businesses in the past with tax stuff, any kind of stuff like that. But the accusations continue. As you can see further down here, we have June 27th. A woman came to Chantel Mills' door, identified herself as a notary hired by the Secretary of State. She then asked Ms. Miles to remove her name from the petition because the Green Party would take votes from Democrats. When Ms. Miles declined, she had previously received a text making the same request. As you can see, though, it ramps up very quickly from phone calls and text messages to pretty soon just door-to-door showing right up to people's houses and asking them pretty directly to remove it. And once again, for the same reason stated every single time, it would hurt the Democrats. We have on or about June 29th, a person identifying as representative from the North Carolina Democratic Party came to Plaintiff Parker's home and asked him to remove his name from the petition. The woman asserted without citing any evidence that the NCGP had committed fraud in his petitioning effort. And anyway, it continues down. However, though, one of the main reasons why I wanted to kind of bring this up and highlight this is, again, this is just one of the kind of what they consider toss-up, but one of the more battleground states in the country. And we have a lawsuit already coming out alleging that we have interests from outside of the state showing up for something as small and relatively, I mean, no offense to the Green Party, but the reason why they're removed from the ballot and they have to get this petition to get put back on the ballot is because they received less than 2% of the vote. Which, you know, would probably lean more towards, they don't take that many votes from the Democrats, clearly. I don't recall any time the Green Party in my lifetime has been viewed as a major party. For the most part, they seem to actually lag behind libertarians in a lot of respects and be a lot less disorganized. However, once again, people being paid, allegedly, well, I guess, I don't know, not even allegedly, people actually being paid that we have video of going door to door to intimidate people from joining these other parties. So, that was something I want to touch on. Now, in a little bit of, good news, I guess. Sorry, it's not the most updated story. But anyways, in the state of Nevada, it actually just today, put a more recent article up there for you guys. Just today, just today, it was confirmed that heading into the elections this November, voters in Nevada would have the ability to decide if they want to move towards a top 5 voting system in the future, more of a ranked choice voting system. They mentioned an initiative would create open primaries. Nevada will be on the ballot for the November election. Nevada Voters First, a cross-partisan coalition of businesses and individuals from around the Silver State, announced that it had received enough signatures for the measure to appear on voters' ballots this fall. Group includes representatives from education, gaming, and labor, among others. Now, one thing I thought was interesting about this, and the only reason I wanted to bring this up, is once again the opposition that we saw to this initiative. Again, the initiative would just be opening up ballots to people who are not members of each parties to vote in these primaries. I guess even better, we can get into it. Last week, coalition of left-leaning and nonpartisan advocacy groups ramped up opposition to the initiative. These groups have been joined by prominent elected Democrats in Nevada, including Governor Steve Sisolak and U.S. Senators Catherine Cortez Masto and Jackie Rosen. So basically the most powerful Democratic politicians in the entire state. This is what I thought was hilarious. So they came together with the form of sort of coalition. The Let Nevadans Vote Coalition is the name they decided, which includes representatives from more than 20 groups, including Silver State Voices and the Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada, held a press conference last Monday denouncing the measure and arguing that the initiative would make voting more time-consuming and confusing. The Nevada State AFL-CIO also declared its opposition to the initiative, which, as I'm expecting to see more and more, and has been the case for many, many years, unfortunately, we're seeing some very, very, very severe pushback to any and all attempts to break out or to have any names go on the ballot which are outside of the Democrats. Because, as we saw in the lawsuit, anything that takes votes from Democrats take seriously. Now, again, this isn't me necessarily weighing in on what's party's better or worse. You could honestly argue taking this very seriously might be what helps Democrats win races across the country. But just again, I want to just draw a little bit of attention to this. This is the name of the coalition that basically, not even basically, literally, their goal is to keep the ballots limited, to limit the amount of people Nevadans can vote for. And getting into the reasons are always hilarious. Opposition argued the system could lead to confusion about how to vote and how voters will be tabulated for those who are casting a ballot for the first time who do not speak English as their first language, which is always a lovely way to speak about your voter base. Oh, they can't figure it out, and they don't speak English, so what do you want us to do? Which, I don't know. Maybe call me crazy, but I have a lot of confidence in people that have never voted for the first time or don't speak English to be able to figure out probably most things on a ballot, right? But anyway, I don't want to get too far into this and talk too much about this. The larger point I wanted to bring up, though, is as we're heading into this absolutely insane election season, these sort of underhanded, dirty tricks, as this lawsuit alleges, actually just fraudulently presenting yourself as members of various government boards or even fraudulently presenting yourself as members of certain parties to directly request people remove names and petitions. Which, by the way, this sounds like mafia tactics to me, especially showing up to someone's front door, the kind of implicit stuff. You get a text message that just kind of blasts out to a bunch of people. You get a phone call, someone says they're calling from a call center, whatever. Someone shows up to your front door in person, I don't know, it has a different energy to it, more of a threatening aura to it, right? But we are still months and months and months away from what we're actually going to be seeing heading into these elections. And I don't know, I just encourage people really to kind of keep their eyes open on this kind of stuff, right? Because if half of what is being alleged in this lawsuit is proven to be true, I don't know, maybe call me naive or crazy. I think some people should have to pay for this kind of stuff, right? Calling people, threatening people to remove... you want to talk about anti-democratic. I don't know what's more anti-democratic than bullying people to remove their name from a petition and literally telling them the reason why I'm bullying you to remove the name from the petition is because it hurts me. It's bad for my party, so you gotta go. Right? This is... this is the kind of stuff you really can't have in a healthy, functioning democracy long term. Although I guess we used to have it, right? Again, mafia used to send people around to beat people with sticks. Keep people away from polling centers. That was real stuff. It used to happen. But again, too, this is just one, and again, I'm not trying to be rude to the Green Party, but fairly insignificant small political party in one state, an important state. But again, if they had received more than, I think it was 2% or 3% of the votes in the state, they wouldn't have needed to be running around gathering these signatures. They wouldn't have needed to be doing these petitions, right? I mean, you know, you would consider this to be kind of a non-threat, a non-entity, right? That's why you kind of wonder a little bit of what goes on elsewise, right? What about the bigger parties? What about doing stuff that's not just trying to keep a small party off one ballot in one state? What about the national stuff, right? And speaking of, I guess, so it's a little bit hard to see, and this is actually outdated. I made this yesterday, so it's a little bit out of date today, right? But these are the 25 emails that I've received from info@pelosiforcongress.org in the past 20 days or so. But actually, the first one's in July 3rd. These are all the ones I received in July. First one's in July 3rd. But every single one of these, absolutely just shameless campaign emails. I mean, just real shameless stuff. One of my favorites, it's just titled Disturbingly. It's a little bit hard to see. First line, this is the most important email I've ever sent you. Now, I opened the email. I'll give you guys a little spoiler. I have a really hard time believing that was the most important email. Especially, like I said, this is just what I received from this one email address in less than a month. And I'm sure a lot of you guys probably, if you're watching this, you're probably seeing this too. You've probably received a good portion of these. Let's see if I can zoom in on some of just the absolute. Oh, this was a great one right here. Sick to my stomach. I am sick to my stomach. Herschel Walker just raised $6 million in Georgia. I mean, if you're running against Herschel Walker, I would assuming you don't want him raising money. Sick to my stomach feels a little bit hyperbolic, a little bit overblown. Where's another one? Where's Mitch McConnell fired? That was a great one. You'll notice Mitch McConnell's gone. Mitch McConnell's devastated. Mitch McConnell's gone again. And I'll have to zoom out. Right here, Mitch McConnell fired. They finally got him. Like I said, it took a while. First he was gone, then he was devastated, then he was gone again, but now he's fired. Of course, none of those are true. None of those are real. However, shows in my inbox on a basically daily, actually more than a daily basis, more than once a day, I get one of these emails from Nancy Pelosi. So, again, I have a hard time imagining this has nothing to do with the upcoming midterms that seem to be seeing a lot of people pulling out all the stops, right? And then also just speaking of the upcoming potential insanity, here's a totally unrelated article about who would take over if Joe Biden can't perform his duties as president, right? Because today, Joe Biden did test positive for COVID-19. Very mild symptoms, which is good, of course. White House says he will continue to work in isolation until he tests negative, and a long list of people in line take over if he can't perform, including everyone's favorite vice president, Kamala Harris. So let's go through and see exactly who these people are. So first, we got Kamala Harris, I'm sure we're all well aware of. Next, America's sweetheart, Nancy Pelosi. Eventually, we go down to Senate President Tempore, or Pro Tempore, Patrick Leahy. Names that always get me. Lee? Don't know. Anyway, then it goes out Tony Blinken and Janet Yellen. Now, of course, unless some tragedy befalls, you would never imagine it to ever get anywhere past. I mean, a tragedy would have to befall for it to get to this point. But you imagine getting past that would be pretty interesting. However, something I did find kind of humorous in looking into this is that the third in line to the presidency is 82 years old and recovering from hip surgery. And this is one of the most shocking little tidbits here. Joe Biden, infamously one of the presidents who's showing his age in office more than others, right? He's actually younger than two of the top 3 people in line to succeed him. It's the kind of thing where you imagine, how can a 79-year-old president get replaced by somebody older than him? And I believe in the case of Nancy Pelosi, it's also a couple years older. And again, though, I think this squeeze, because I mean, the Democrats cannot possibly feel good knowing this is their starting lineup, right? All right, you're running Biden and Kamala, which are both extraordinarily unpopular. Like Kamala's just, I guess, unpopular mostly in like a personal sense at the moment. But Joe Biden actually is one of the worst polling presidents of all time, I believe. I think he just set a record. If he didn't set a record, he's getting damn close. Now the thing is with approval ratings and stuff like that. Infamously, George W. Bush had one of the highest approval ratings of all time after 9/11. I would say long term, it doesn't necessarily reflect that way in his presidency. So it's important to keep in mind, however, I mean, this is from 538. You can just see kind of how shocking it really is to look at, right? 57.2% disapprove. Do they have do they show Trump on there? That's what's really fascinating. There we go. It's really fascinating when you realize he is worse off than Donald Trump for the most part. I mean, I believe it gets real close, right? You look at Donald Trump, he's around. It's hard to get the right on there, but it gets what, like 38% at the lowest for Donald Trump. But he's basically where Donald Trump was. So, right. So I guess when you kind of put it in that kind of context, right? When you look at it like, I mean, this is, how do I put this? I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. When you look at the pressure the Democrats on a national level are right now to perform, right? When you look at kind of just the context around stuff, because I mean, let's look at let's see if we can do the House map. Oh, it's 2020. Sorry. All right. It's 2020 as well. Sometimes I can navigate Real Clear Politics really well. I know exactly what I'm clicking on. Other times, apparently, I just click on old data over and over again. Anyway, though, larger point is, across the country, you're looking at very, 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 very close elections. That's it. There we go. Sorry. I knew it was there. I knew I had it somewhere. Anyway. And not only is it looking close right now, there's a good deal of toss-ups, but the Democrats would need to win, I think, basically every toss-up. But even then, they might not win it, right? They're on track to lose the House. Maybe record low approval ratings won't matter for the presidency. I have to imagine record low approval ratings heading into, again, president's not on the ballot in this midterm, but I mean, you can't just get hammered and lose everything heading into the 2024 elections. And I'm sure Democrats know that as well. So I don't know. Maybe that's the kind of stuff that leads to kind of pulling out all the stops, right? Which you would think, though. I mean, Donald Trump was a threat to humanity as we knew it, right? How can you ramp it up above that? How do you go above what it took to get rid of Donald Trump, right? What's next? Door-to-door, pretending to be members of political parties and demanding people remove their name from ballots so it benefits you. Okay, right? I could see that. I mean, I'm telling you guys, I'm expecting an absolute just deranged email season coming up from these campaigners because, I mean, I don't know. I think I still have the articles pulled up. Let me see if I can highlight some of the interesting things about this. But let's see. Anyway, I'll kind of just talk through it while I'm pulling it up. But actually started with some Republicans that were complaining. There were some Republican lawmakers that were saying, hey, we feel like, or according to a poll or a study that was done, I forgot what university, but a university, it appears that Republicans are more likely to have their spam garbage emails filtered than Democrats. Now, personally, to me, that means that we should be raising the amount of emails like this that are immediately spam filtered sent from Democrats, not lowering the ones Republicans are that are sent to the spam filter. But as a result of this, Google came up with an absolutely terrible idea. And that was, they would, there we go, pull this up for you guys. They would come up with a new system that actually exempts, there we go. It would exempt what they consider to be like verified political spam. Like, I have to assume info at Pelosi for government, the one that's spamming me, I'm assuming that as well, right? If you go into the emails, they all say paid for by the official Nancy Pelosi for Congress, all of that stuff. So, sorry, I'm trying to pull up the actual synopsis of what it would do. There we go. Last month, Google asked the Federal Elections Commission to greenlight a program that would keep campaign emails from ending up in the spam folders, according to a filing obtained by Axios. This is the wrong one. Sorry, I was trying to have this stuff up ahead of time because I always pull the wrong articles up. Anyway, basically, it's a long, annoying, stupid pilot program, and what it would do is it would allow certain major political organizations, again, like actual Senate campaign committees, super PACs, basically whoever Google deems official enough, to create a sort of, that's what I'm looking for, a bypass where these emails would not immediately go to spam. You'd be able to spam filter them a little bit the way you could now. You could just unsubscribe from the email list all the same. However, if you didn't unsubscribe after the first one you received, they would no longer be spam filtered. They would go directly to your inbox. There'd be no way around them. You'd have to then go through and manually unsubscribe from them, which in truth, while it's a bad idea, it realistically is not a whole lot different than it works now. For example, my spam filters do, I got 25 emails in 20, not even 20 days. I got 25 emails from the 3rd and the 20th from one email address that were all just literal spam. Doesn't get filtered out. I could unsubscribe, but my point remains. Anyway, though, what I thought was kind of interesting, a little bit funny about this is you can, if you want, submit comment to the FEC about what you think about this filing from Google. If you think it's a good idea, if you think it's a bad idea. And the amount of comments they received, I have to, I'm not an FEC reporter, but I have to imagine receiving thousands of emails in the span of a couple days of people complaining about this is somewhat notable. So, and just getting to the kind of just along the lines of how annoying and frustrating these emails are, I thought it'd be kind of funny. We'll just kind of sit through here for a minute and kind of go through some of them. Because this is maybe one of the more bipartisan things I've seen in a while is the universal condemnation of this plan. And actually, hold on. One more second. Sorry, before I get into it, I just want to really quickly again highlight what it is. There we go. So, this is how it would work. The pilot program per the June 21st filing would be for authorized candidate committees, political party committees, and leadership political action committees registered with the FEC. Sorry. I could not for the life of me think of that political jargon. So I wanted to make sure it was, phrased correctly. It would make campaign emails from such groups exempt from spam detection as long as they don't violate Gmail's policies around phishing, malware, or illegal content. Instead, when users would receive an email from a campaign for the first time, they would get a prominent notification asking if they want to keep receiving emails from them, and they would still have the ability to opt out of subsequent emails. But again, that's the thing. It's like, for the most part, it works very, very similarly to how the system works now. The only difference would be if you don't go through there and immediately pull it off, it won't go to your spam. It will continue to go to your inboxes. Now, again, it's worth noting that what's what I'm looking for? The companies, the organizations behind these strategies, these people aren't dummies. The people that do this stuff, they are mostly very well paid, and they know exactly what they're doing. I thought this was an interesting article right here from Blue Tent. Blue Tent, I believe, is like a progressive think tank, which is why they're so critical of the Democrats. But one of the reasons why I brought up is they cite specifically the organization that Nancy Pelosi works with. The people that I have to thank for the 25 emails that I've received over the past 20 days begging me for money. Which, oh yeah, by the way, Nancy Pelosi, remarkably rich. Probably one of the wealthiest people in the... Actually, you know what? Take that back. There's a lot of wealthy politicians. But as far as wealth relative to amount of time spent doing nothing but politics, she's really up there, but begging us for money every single day. Anyway, they mentioned that Sapphire Strategies is Nancy Pelosi's most important scam email shop. Did you get the most important email ever we've sent you from U.S. Speaker Nancy Pelosi every few days or weeks? If so, those emails are almost certainly sent to you by the courtesy of Sapphire Strategies, which the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because right here. This is the most important ask I've ever made from you. This is the most important email I've ever sent you. So, all right. So that's who I have to thank for this. Anyway, sorry. They just get into the fact that they scam because it works. People behind large-scale shady email fundraising campaigns, including entities like the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, Companies like Mothership or Sapphire or electoral campaigns engage in emotional manipulation and or outright falsehoods for one reason: those tactics work. At least they work for large organizations that can afford to turn off tens of thousands of donors or more without suffering real consequences, which also is just great. You know? That's even as like you think. Oh, you would think like on like the stack of kind of like what's important to politicians. You would think the donors come above even the voters, right? Like if someone's like one donor has to be worth like 20 voters if you can use that money to, you know, help you campaign, help you spread. And it's up to the point now where these national committees are like, whatever. We'll write off tens of thousands of them, right? People that maybe would have given us money and would have continued to give us money and actually been like, you know, long-term donors for us. We can afford to just turn them off for life because there's so many people, and honestly, whatever. There's a new sucker born every day. It's apparently the mentality of the people putting these emails out, right? I think they have a pretty good, actually, up here. Where is it? They have a pretty good few anecdotes, which, again, I can't speak to the veracity of bluetent.us. However, they are just directly citing large publications here. So they say, just how bad is Mothership? Bad enough that a 2019 Washington Post report called out the company, specifically citing allegations of 2018 emails for the Progressive Turnout Project constituted a, quote, barrage of misleading and even threatening messages. One email, for example, suggested the recipients' friends and neighbors would be notified if they failed to cast a ballot, according to a copy posted online and confirmed by the group. Which is just great. Some more kind of like underhanded mafia tactics. If you don't support us, we'll know. And your neighbors will know. And your family will know. Just atrocious stuff, right? And again, it shows up in your inbox. Again, I don't want to say this. Probably most people live this, but shows up in our inbox to do this frequently. Anyway, the reason why I wanted to go into that background is because, not to open more tabs, I thought it'd be funny then to go into some of the replies that the FEC got to this Google plan to increase the amount of these emails which show up in your inbox. So this is a great one right here. I object to Google's plan. Thank you. Sent from my iPad. Definitely not a Google fan. This is a very bad idea. The FCC would be becoming a political tool to whomever could lobby via lawsuit the best. Let's go through. Do not under any circumstances approve this request. No, never. Absolutely not. By the way, there's 500 just in this one group of them right here. Like, we don't get enough lies already. Now you're going to make it so they can lie to us directly in a personal line? For emphasis, Matthew D. Cossey. So I love the fact this guy actually, this Matthew character, actually sat down to compose an email to the FEC. Again, in the subject lines, exactly what you're supposed to have. AO 2022, 14 email chains. But I just couldn't help myself at the end. No, bad, wrong, this is a mistake and should not be allowed. Writing to express my belief that Google's request regarding political emails and changes their identification as spam not be approved. And it just keeps going. I mean, we have a vehement opposition here. Please reject. I do not want to be forced to receive unwanted political emails and invasion of my privacy. But this is not good with math, but I believe over 2,000 of these came in about a 48 to 72 hour span. And the sad thing is, again, even if you have your spam filters up, even if you do everything you can to get around this stuff, there's organizations out here that are paid a lot of money. Oh, speaking of this Mothership Strategies, you know, that article they mentioned them from was from 2019. Well, don't worry. They're working to get people elected in Senate in 2020 and 2021. The Jamie Harrison, chair of the Democratic National Committee and failed 2020 U.S. Senate candidate, paid Mothership Strategies more than $11 million, including more than $4.7 million in the closing months of the campaign for work described in FEC filings as digital advertising and services. And digital services and advertising. That's great. I love when they have all the mumbo jumbo and the words are so mixed up. They just like just mix them around. Digital advertising and services, and also digital services and advertising. Blue Tent reached out to the DNC's press office asking whether Harrison had any regrets. Okay, again, this is where I can't speak to necessarily the motives of Blue Tent. However, some of this appears to be just publicly filed and around it. And again, John Ossoff, who I believe won, can owe a little bit of that thanks to the $2 million he sent to this Mothership Strategies, which again was accused of a barrage of misleading and even threatening messages. So, it's great. I don't know. I was gonna do a video about this yesterday. It was a little interesting. It's from North Carolina to go into this, but I think the fact that nobody wants to get these spam junk emails in their inbox isn't too much news, right? I think most people know this anyway, but it is a little bit. It's a little bit comforting to see that indeed nobody likes these. Nobody wants these. Apparently, some people have very interesting formats for their emails, I've realized. Probably one of the more universal rejections of an awful idea that I've seen like this, which is good, but again, I don't know if unfortunately it will matter. I mean, these groups, that money is shocking. $11 million from just one campaign in just one election season. So, you can imagine some of the most well-paid, hopped up on amphetamine, deranged copywriters in the world will be doing everything in their power to get around spam filters and flood your emails with just a deluge of nonsense like this. I love also, and what's kind of funny, you can actually go on a lot of the stuff these companies are proud of. Even the main Democratic online fundraising group, oh my god. I donate to I donate to something that gets routed through them. Is it ActBlue? I think it's ActBlue. If you go on the ActBlue website, they actually have a little tutorial on how you should be sending out your campaign fundraising emails. And they mention every single one of the tactics on display on the screen right now, right? They're you need to A/B test. You need to send out different emails with different titles. You don't want to have your wholesale front loaded, right? You want to have to try to have your kind of your first pitch. It's all here. All the nonsense, all the manipulation, all the, quite frankly, dirty tactics that people should not be accepting. Just send it to your inbox every single day, right? And when you sit there and kind of just read through them, it really is like a deranged reality, right? And this is not a year. I didn't cherry pick the craziest ones I could find. This is just legitimately what's shown up in my inbox since the 3rd of July. And all the what's the word? The way you can kind of sense the focus testing on them, right? For example, this one just titled 30 seconds, disturbingly. But then you also got the reply to Mitch McConnell fired. Oh, Fox News. I wonder if Fox News drives engagement, sorry. I'm not here to be critical of individual things, but I don't know. This stuff is, to me, quite frankly, disgusting, though, right? To use some of Nancy's own language. I'm sick to my stomach seeing this stuff because there's no reason why. And again, I like using Nancy Pelosi as an example because Nancy Pelosi, remarkably rich woman, worth over $100 million, that this deranged, panic-inducing, hysterical mumbo-jumbo needs to be shoved in front of as many voters as they possibly can every single day, multiple times a day. Because also, nobody for 1 second thinks Nancy, some people might think this, but for the most part, no one really believes Nancy Pelosi sitting down and composing this. This is obviously just spam, just actual bad faith spam designed to steal money from people. Just shotgun into as many inboxes as humanly possible. And it is only July. I can only imagine what it's going to look like as we head into November. Again, the dirty tricks, the all of it. And yeah, I don't know. Again, cannot say I am very much looking forward to it. However, we have it coming, and might as well be prepared for it. Yeah. Oh, thank you. So I was going through the chat right now. And statistics is how effective these emails are. I think in that one thing I'd pulled up, let me see. Give me 1 second. I think I actually have. Was this it? I thought I had a little study on how effective this stuff is. Again, that one article went into a little bit, the fact that they kind of work and they're able to get stuff. Was this it? Because I know Princeton did a study in the 2021 election about basically this. And I guess, it's not necessarily the raw data on how well this works, right? But this is the summary of finding from the Princeton study. They said they found 6 tactics senders used to manipulate recipients into opening emails. The typical sender used at least one manipulative tactic in about 43% of their emails, and most senders, 99%, use them at least occasionally. I have to imagine these politicians aren't just burning 11 million, right? And this is the hilarious thing too. First of all, I love the. You'll notice who they use for the example here, right? Same individual who paid this deranged company $11 million to send stuff out like this. And I'm sure many of you recognize this exact layout. All the shenanigans, all the cheap tricks, all of the just obvious manipulation tactics. It's the kind of stuff where if this wasn't an election fundraising thing, right? If this was a company a human being owned and they had to have their reputation on this company, they would be embarrassed to send these things out to people. They'd be embarrassed. They'd be like, oh my gosh, this is even for, you could say kind of more entrepreneurial and capitalist minded people. There's some level of no one's this shameless to just send, Arby's would never be this shameless. You gotta go to Arby's today. If you don't go to Arby's, you know what I mean? People will get in their inbox every single day. The fate of our democracy is at stake. One thing that's going to start showing up as we get closer and closer to these elections, when they start coming up with my favorite, the fake deadlines. Any of you get the fake deadline emails? If we don't get $4,000 in small donations by 3 p.m. today, no mention of Pacific or Eastern, you'll get it in the middle of the weekend. You get it a Friday night. Friday at 9 p.m. If we don't get $4,000 by 3 p.m. today, Mitch McConnell will have 47 more seats in the Senate. And then if you don't open that and you ignore it, they don't care. They just go on to the next one. Hey, Mitch McConnell would sure hate to see you do this. If you don't open that one, they go to the next one. They even mention, you can go online and read through these workshops. They even mention trying to, for example, see this one right here, it just says as of 5 p.m. Right? They say try to use these these kind of short these subjects to kind of intrigue people to lead them in. Right? But you'll notice they don't stray too far away from the hysteria. You got breaking Fox News, sick to my stomach, and Mitch McConnell gone around it. But for the people who don't respond to the hysteria, they give them the little as of 5 p.m. I hate to email again, but things have turned dire. Right? And if that doesn't work, they ramp it up. And they ramp it up. And then, ramp it up. And then, again, back to disturbingly. 30 seconds. And again, all of this is if they don't care why they finally tricked you to give them the money. They don't. Whatever it takes. Whatever words you need to see. Whatever threat that needs to come in. Whatever you need to be scared of to get the money. That's all they care about. And then once they got the money, hey, don't worry, we're going to spam you with 40 more emails. I don't know. It's a little bit shocking. Also, yeah, thank you, AMV Original. Glad to see you back, man. Everyone, honestly, glad to see everyone back. You're alive? Yeah, I am alive for the time being. It's been, no more commitments to exactly when, but as we're heading more and more into the election season, I don't know. I'm sure many people have had a similar experience. I've been finding myself straying more and more away from politics as the insanity is ramping up, and it's really, I don't know. I'm sure as many people, and one of the reasons why I am so interested in keeping an eye on these third parties and keeping an eye on expanding ballot access and keeping an eye on removing the stranglehold the two parties have in the country right now is I can't stand either of them. Democrats admittedly piss me off way more than Republicans. Republicans, I feel have one position, and it's just whatever Democrats want, we want the opposite. So they're not really useful. Maybe it's just the websites I go to. I don't get these emails from Republicans. The only place I get emails like this from is because I put my email in to read articles, all kinds of different websites. I get spammed by I think it's literally called the Daily Shapiro. I get that all the time. And what's funny, it'll be the inverse. It'll also have Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy's name in the subject line. It'll just be Mitch McConnell needs your help instead of Mitch McConnell devastated. So yeah, it's they're not immune, but again, also getting into, I mean, I don't know. I guess most of you, I'm sure, have seen this video last time, but I want to just kind of run it again, just because it really is. This really is insane to me. But here.
Be a huge disadvantage to Democrats and it would be an advantage to Republicans. So we're asking people if they're interested in removing their name from the petition.
Okay, so you're from
North Carolina Democrats.
You're from North Carolina Democrats, correct? Yeah. And you used the public information based on the petition that I signed, correct? For getting the Green Party candidate onto the ballot, correct?
Well, that's the petition that you signed.
Correct. Yeah. I'm fully aware of that.
Yeah, so we're just asking people if they were interested in removing their name from the petition. Like, some people signed it and didn't know they were being misled. Some people didn't even sign.
What a great little bit of logic there. They didn't know they were being misled. Wow. Feels like a requirement of being misled is that you don't know what's happening, but whatever. I apologize.
But their signature was on there, so that they're investigating that too.
Yeah, I get it. You have to audit the petition, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how that works. Like, they just contracted me to go around and ask people.
Okay. About if I wanted to take my name off of the list.
Correct.
And that's because, like, I'm not following. I mean, I signed it because I wanted the Green Party to be on the ballot.
Right. So we're letting people know that it would be a disadvantage for Democrats and an advantage for Republicans.
Right. You guys should move further left, and then.
And that, again, that line she used there, disadvantage for Democrats. Hold on. I guess they used a different quote. Take votes from Democrats is the one that shows up time and time and time again on the or hurt Democrats. Anyway, the idea being that it does seem like some kind of script was given, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so it's like I want a third party on the ballot. I want ranked choice voting so we have a viable third party candidate.
Of course.
And if the Democrats are concerned about that, then they should probably change their politics a bit, as opposed to coming to my house and trying to get me to get my name off a petition.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a lot. I mean, I knew you guys were coming.
And it kind of goes from there. But I just kind of wanted to highlight that a little bit as we get to the end here, is because I cannot imagine this is in a vacuum. I cannot imagine there's some wacky nonsense going on in North Carolina, and that this is not going to be more and more as we head further and further into these elections, which are really important. Again, I mean, there's a lot at stake. And again, I am not surprised to see the Democrats pulling out a lot more of the dirty tricks than the Republicans feel necessary at the moment. Right? Because no one wants to lose, especially fate of the democracy is at stake, right? Fate of everything's at stake. I mean, I don't think anybody... Joe Biden, with the House and with the Senate, is not very popular and struggling to get some stuff done. Imagine without the Senate and without the House. Not only without the Senate and without the House, imagine Joe Biden is not only the kind of lame duck everyone already sees him as, but I mean as like literally one. As obviously on the way out. And this is also where it's backfiring, the fact that Kamala's it's working for Joe. I still do subscribe to the theory that Kamala was chosen as VP to protect Joe from serious talks of removal. Right? Like God, who was that random creator, like a created character in a video game that was running next to Hillary Clinton? Just politician guy, Tim Kaine or something, right? I think if, someone like that was behind Biden, just total random generic stand-in Mr. Politician man, I think they'd be talking a lot louder about getting rid of Joe Biden. But no one wants Kamala Harris as our president. Nobody wants Nancy Pelosi as our president. And this guy is actually older than Joe Biden and just had a hip surgery. So you look at kind of the chain of who comes after it, there really is nowhere else to go. Where Democrats, unfortunately, or for better or for worse, are probably stuck with Joe Biden going into 2024. And it it seems like they don't like it. Again, to reference why North Carolina mattered. North Carolina is looked at as one of the toss-up states heading into the few that are on the ballot for the Senate in 2022. But it's not the only one. And you'll also probably hear a whole lot about what's going on in Arizona with Blake Masters, because that's another big one. Ironically enough, me living in the state of Nevada, I hear way more about what's going on in Arizona, and I've even heard more about what's going on in North Carolina than I've heard out here. So that's a little interesting, but still, this is the reality. This is what we have to look forward to. I think there's always this there's this almost like what's the word? It's easy to forget, right? Like once the elections pass, they're over and people don't want to. I think most of the time they end up being so frustrating and like difficult. People just want them to be gone. They want them to be over with. But I don't know about you guys, but I remember election night 2020, right? I remember every single result that was not a landslide being contested and fought tooth and nail to the last moment. I remember allegations of insane stuff, right? I remember people talking about boxes of ballots being moved in. I remember people talking about stories. I think this actually happened where like thousands of emails went out, kind of like just telling people to like reminding them to not vote. You know, like, hey, stay safe, stay home, kind of like, I remember all that kind of stuff, right? And to think that, it's going to go down, it's just going to back off. People are going to forget what they did. When I say people, I mean the operatives. I mean who is it? Sapphire? Is it Sapphire Industries, the one behind all this nonsense I'm getting in my inbox every single day? I wonder the operatives. Oh, sorry, this is the wrong one. I wonder the people that are getting paid to do stuff like show up door to door and remind people that it would harm the Democrats if they don't vote for them, which is basically what this is. These text messages, these phone calls, these in-person visits were to remind people, and again, it's the reason why I say these are just threats. It's ludicrous to remind someone not voting for them won't help them. Like, think about that. How ridiculous is it to pick up a phone and say, hey, if you continue to support the Green Party, it's not helping Democrats. Yeah, duh, obviously. They're not trying to, change your mind. They're just warning you. They're threatening you. So I don't know. Once again, if the threats are starting like this against the Green Party in North Carolina, again, remember, a state that they got removed from the ballot because they had no support in the state. If that's what's going on there, I'm a little bit worried to see where it heads into. And then also, I love the word games Democrats have been getting into. The Democrats are very good at word games. I can't give Republicans. I can't overlook them. Republicans just seem less interested in the word games. But naming your coalition of politicians against increasing ballot access, letting Nevadans vote, brilliant little word game, right? And this is also, I think, a great way. Again, this is in reference to Nevada moving to a kind of a ranked choice voting system. I believe like a top 5 voting system. But just this quote sums up a lot of what's the word? A lot of what they're actually saying, right? Saying enshrining the system in Nevada state constitution would be a mistake because meaningful access to the ballot box is too critical to our system of representative government. Meaningful access to the ballot box. Which, I don't know. I think the subtext there is kind of what they're trying to say, right? Anything else, there's only one meaningful form of access to the ballot box, and that's what we have now currently that we control. Anything outside of that, meaningless. An experiment. Unproven and unwieldy. Now again, as far as I know, America has been trending further and further and further and further towards basically never being able to know what any of our elections' actual results are, right? I mean, I haven't been alive for 100 years, but as we continue to get deeper and deeper, And technology might play a role just because of the preciseness. It could be that we're finally learning we didn't actually know who won these elections 30 years ago either. And now the technology is catching up and we can actually go, hold on a minute, it's pretty unfeasible to count all these tonight. But I don't know. I also feel like we're getting more and more and more to a point where both political parties, which again, the problem of having two major parties that dominate everything and make all the decisions, I think they're both learning that there's a legitimate form of obstruction within the legal system by just contesting the votes, contesting the count, demanding recounts, drawing it out, making never backing down, never giving up, never conceding, right? It's bad for voters. It really is bad for us. But again, that's what meaningful access to the ballot box is, though. Meaningful access is these major parties. All they have to do is do their footwork ahead of time, get the districts drawn the way they want them, get the demographics the way they want them as far as who's going to vote for what, right? If you want more rich voters, encouraging more rich people to come. If you want more poor voters, driving rich people, whatever it takes, right? You do that. Then you get in charge of, again, some of these state boards of equalization and stuff like that. Rig a few rules there. Then once you've done that, your party will win almost every election in the state. You can't do it in every state, and the parties know it. But they find the ones they can do it in. And then once that happens, all you have to do is rig your own internal party primary, and you basically decide who's in charge. And that's what they do. So, yeah. Oh, and as far as libertarians, I have to imagine libertarians are pro-choice. However, libertarians are pro many things, unfortunately. So it's one of the problems with, and also, by the way, I believe deliberately manufactured by the larger parties as a whole. There's a pretty good way, it seems like they keep these. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't want to go too late. I know it's already 10 o'clock for some of you guys, but God, was it? Trying to remember the year. Hold on 1 second. Was this the one? They only have them in their entirety. Oh, here we go. This is a good example. Problem the Libertarian Party is always going to have is kind of, I honestly don't think it has to be this way, but for whatever reason, libertarians have this idea, right? That they have to be like one of the most ludicrously welcoming. Libertarians might be proof that having diversity of thought to too much of a degree is just detrimental to any movement. It's detrimental to any organization. To have this high level of tolerance of alternative ways of viewing things in a party. But oh no, they deleted the tweets about this stuff. But time and time again, whenever the libertarians get together, and whenever it's time for the libertarian parties to do anything, images like this show up at their national convention. Right? And again, I was searching for one of my favorite clips, which is I believe it was at the debate. I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2012. I thought it was 2016. It might be in here. It's hard for me to find. I haven't pulled up ahead of time, but they're having a debate, and one of the individuals. Hold on, I want to see if I can pull this up. Whenever I hear about libertarian, I just think of this. And again, I'm not saying all libertarians believe this, right? I'm not saying this is every libertarian's like, what I'm saying is the downside is, and the issue is, this is how the Libertarian Party comes across to people. This is the images that show up that people see.
The president has no constitutional authority to regulate drugs. That being said, at the state level, I would support some legislation that would stop children from being allowed to purchase drugs and prosecute anyone who would put a child in danger, because I do believe that children do need some protection. Yes, you should not be able to sell heroin to a 5-year-old.
The mixed reception to, I do not believe you should be able to sell heroin to a 5-year-old. Right? The audible boos in the auditorium for that radical stance it's the kind of stuff I just don't see how that party ever gets passed. It just seems to follow them everywhere. Again, and I think part of it comes from the fact that libertarians are remarkably tolerant of alternative viewpoints, right? Unfortunately, it looks like, and I think this was also the year when they had somebody break down and was actually like, this is ridiculous. Like, I donate real money to this organization. I take this serious. Like, how are we ever going to get anywhere with a bunch of clowns and yahoos like this running around all over the place? Which, I mean, he's right? It's like, yeah. You know, the mixed reception to, I don't think you should be able to sell heroin to a 5-year-old. It really is kind of hard to reach a sense of like, we're a legitimate party. We have legitimate stances on things. But again, it comes from the fact that there is not a culture of tone policing inside the Libertarian Party to the degree that other parties have it. And, you know, I definitely agree that the Democrats, for example, are definitely running into problems with attempting to, I guess, the mainstream Democratic Party has got enough. They have a big enough umbrella at the top where they can be pretty intolerant of a lot of viewpoints within the party, and they can enforce it. The Republicans, you're noticing right now, it's not really happening as much. Like, there's like a literal, like, I mean, there's the MAGA Republicans, there's the trying to go back before Trump Republicans, like the DeSantis Republicans. Like, there isn't this cohesive umbrella at the top to kind of keep everyone under. Which, you know, I think it's going to help the Republicans heading into 2022, because you kind of need that to win, like, the House, right? I mean, I think that reason exactly is why you see Real Clear Politics pretty early on, but looking like heading into 2022, the House map tipping heavy to Republicans, because there will be some districts where the MAGA, ultra MAGA, let's go Trump, that's going to win you some districts and it's going to lose you other ones, right? There's going to be some districts where you're going to need these, like, kind of post-Trump DeSantis style Republicans to run in. And there's going to be some districts, this, you know, let's go back, like, you know, like PaleoCon pre-Trump stuff might be successful in, which they just, because there's no one actually in charge of the Republican Party, they're kind of afforded that flexibility. Whereas for Democrats, if you want to be a Democratic House member, you better get real used to doing whatever Nancy Pelosi says, because she's been there forever and she's the most powerful member of the Democrats there, and it's pretty obvious that she's in charge, right? They use, Democrats defer to seniority almost always in everything. It's one of the reasons why the Democratic Party is so inflexible and so, in a lot of ways, old and useless, is because their leadership is always deferring to seniority. So the more corrupt you can be to just win elections, the further you'll move up in the party as a rule. That's all you have to do. Fundraise, win, and eventually you'll be around longer than the next person and they'll move you up. And it creates an environment where you get this kind of very, you know what's funny? Of all people to bring this up, I think recently, who was it? Recently, Pete Buttigieg's old, I honestly never remember. I thought she was his campaign manager, but I think she was just like his chief advisor. But anyway, Pete Buttigieg's like chief advisor recently wrote a book basically saying the same stuff. The Democrats they don't allow for enough diversity or flexibility within their own party. And so they're just getting hammered across the country. Like, sure, they have some deep-ass blue areas. For example, Nancy Pelosi's district's never going to be turning red. They'll never have to worry about it. But you move past that, you get outside of that. I mean, there is a reality where the Democrats' gains in Arizona and their attempt to kind of firmly control Nevada are gone already in 2022, right? Like, there's a reality where the Senate, the congressional districts, and, like, the governors all go Republican in Arizona. There's a chance maybe not governor. I don't know if there's going to be a chance for a Republican governor in Nevada, but maybe. My only point is, these areas where the Democrats were really, getting some gains and really kind of, I mean, is anybody talking about a potential future blue Texas anymore? I don't know. Maybe there's some people out there with pie in the sky dreams that one day Texas will be blue again. Or not again, but one day they'll finally achieve a blue Texas. But I think a lot of people are also kind of, Democrats on the side of sanity are realizing, nah, probably not going to happen. But this is also, again, very, very, very early. But I think this also is a great way of looking at it. The toss-up seats are almost all Democratic seats. And you look at seats leaning Republican, a good majority of those are current Democrat seats. So, yeah. And then, honestly, to be honest, too, I hadn't really looked at the governor's map. Wow, even more dire. Yeah. I mean, what's funny? I mentioned this, I think, on a stream a couple of days ago. But I remember, as soon as the Senate, the Georgia Senate, was like runoffs, whatever. When it was finally confirmed, Democrats were going to have the tie in the Senate with the tiebreaker, and they would be able to, basically, as long as they got everyone on board with theirs, or if they won over one or two Republicans, they'd control Senate and they control House. I remember looking at it then and saying, if the Democrats don't actually, like, if they can't find any party unity, and if they let exactly what happened happen to them, which is Sinema and Joe Manchin just obstruct and make it so they can't convince any Republicans because they just can't really put together any solid policy, yeah, this is what it's going to go on. Like, people look at the Democrats. What have the Democrats done for them except give them a president everybody hates? I mean, this is, an anecdotal thing. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. This is a bit anecdotal, but I mean, I remember I recently got an Uber or a Lyft. I got in a taxi, I guess, basically. And I forgot what it was, but almost unprompted, the taxi driver brought up the president and Joe Biden. And that was funny what he said. He was like, yeah, man, like, I didn't know he was, like, going to be like this when I voted for him. I knew he was going to be like this old. And I was just like what? Like, this is the thing is, like, when Joe Biden got these votes, and the Democrats got these votes, and the Democrats won, I don't think they appreciated fully the level of... I don't think they appreciated how successful their narrative arguments were as opposed to their substantive arguments, right? They were able to build a narrative that made people feel comfortable going Democrat and made them feel more comfortable with Joe Biden and all that. But the only problem is there's no substance to it. So no, here we are 2 years later, and it's like everything's on fire, It's like, this is like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Territory. Right? This is, Joe Biden is officially less popular than Donald Trump. And he's the quote-unquote leader of the party, right? This is, again, like, people that aren't super involved political partisan types sitting down and going like, wow, Joe Biden sucks. He's, like, ancient. And, again, I recently saw a clip. Let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. I recently saw this. And now I want to get my numbers right here on this. And that is, how old is Bernie Sanders? Top of my head, I do not know. Bernie Sanders is 80 years old, which is... Bernie Sanders is a few months older than Joe Biden, okay? I want you guys to keep that in mind. Bernie Sanders is a few months older than Joe Biden. Now, this is a video from the debate. I'm pretty sure the 2020 debates. They're not thinking it's 2016 debates. I'm pretty sure it's the 2020 debates. Now, this is a little bit of a meme, but I just want to run this. I just want to highlight this and show this and just. I mean, this was Joe Biden before we got elected, right?
Why don't you get rid of the super PAC that you have right now, which is running very ugly negative ad spends? Don't laugh, Joe. That's just the truth. And they got 2 other super PACs running ads against us. Why don't you just say right now, go on television and say, hey, you know what? I think in the past, Joe, if I'm not mistaken, you condemned super PACs. Is that correct?
You get rid of the 9 super PACs you have?
I don't have 9 super. I don't have any super
9.
PACs.
You want me to list them?
No, yeah, you go ahead, listen.
Okay. Come on, give me a break.
No, I won't give you a break on this one, Joe.
Again, that's kind of a humorous little thing. But the main reason why I wanted to bring that up and show that is I forget, I think talking about Joe Biden's age a lot, right? Bring up how old he is. But again, Bernie Sanders is older than Joe Biden. Just I want to remind you, it's possible to be 80 years old and still have because I'm not even a big Bernie Sanders fan. I would much prefer a president that was acting and behaving in a manner that seemed like he was at least a little bit there. And I know Bernie Sanders nowadays probably is a bit older, but still, he was older than Joe Biden then too. And Joe Biden looked like Joe Biden then too, right? Like it's not just like, well, he had 80, so he's got to act like this. Like it's possible to have people that are politicians that are older, that still speak and engage with a level of energy that makes it makes so you can follow what they're saying and don't just tune them out and fall asleep immediately, right? So yeah, I caught myself watching that a little while ago and I was like, oh yeah, wait. I forgot that Bernie Sanders wasn't like Joe Biden and he wasn't just kind of like, oh, blah, 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 wasn't just kind of spacing out mid-sentence. And then getting into the context of it. I mean, that was at a presidential debate. And he accused Bernie Sanders of having 9 super PACs. And Bernie was just like, what? No, I don't. And Joe Biden had no actual answer for that. Just, well, come on, man. Literally, come on, man, was his response to, if you're accusing me of having 9 super PACs, what are they? Come on, man. So yeah, sorry. That is probably most of the stuff I want to talk about today. Going to probably keep more of an eye heading forward into the midterms. One of the reasons why I'm kind of, just a little bit of my thing here. One of the reasons why I am so interested in the kind of what's the word for it? The kind of temperature, I guess, of these elections as we head into them is because I think, let's go rephrasing this. I think this election, hopefully, we'll be able to learn from. It's not going to be hopefully the consequence won't be too catastrophic. But I think learning from this election, hopefully we will see just some legitimate reforms to our current election system. Because, I mean, I'm highlighting right now on the stream, as you can see, this is the governor races heading into 2022's governor election, a gubernatorial elections. Apologize, right? And again, this is early on. I mean, I was gonna say way too early. We're at less than 4 months. We're realistically at 3 months, which is realistically what we're getting to single digit weeks almost, 13, 14 weeks till this stuff actually happens. We're getting pretty close. And you'll notice that the Democrats, as of right now, are projected to lose basically everything that's not a safe seat. Anything that's even worth looking at, it looks like it's going to the Republicans. Oh, sorry. I apologize. Most of the stuff, the toss-ups, I apologize, it looks like the close toss-ups are almost all going Republican. It looks like. And the reason why I bring that up is getting back to my kind of original point here. We're currently seeing the Democrats serve as absolutely massive obstructions to third parties and additional ballot access. Again, this one was really cute. The Let Nevadans Vote Coalition which was built around restricting ballot access. For candidates, sorry, not for voters, but restricting ballot access to candidates, making it harder for candidates' names to appear on the ballot. That was the whole point of it. And again, their argument, which is just a great typical Democrat form, their argument is, well, you're either too stupid or you don't speak English. That's why we can't have this. Great. Again, call me crazy, but I have a lot of confidence in first-time voters and people who don't speak English as their first language to figure out whatever it is that everyone else has to figure out. In a way, I have an equal level of confidence that people that have voted their entire life and only speak English will make the same stupid mistakes that anyone else would make. But, sorry, let me get this point out. If we are headed towards the 2022 election, where again, if these predictions hold up and the Democrats get absolutely hammered and just, I mean, I'm not talking about gains erased. I'm talking about like potential generational setbacks. Maybe we will see the Democrats stop serving as such a massive obstruction to additional third parties, right? If they could get it in their heads that third parties existing could help them get what they want, right? Again, if the Democrats had any interest at all of legitimate coalition building, which again, that's what happens in countries that have multiple parties. Like it isn't like you have small parties, right? I mean, oh my God, but there's like, I think in like the Netherlands, there was like an animal rights party, right? But for the most part, what happens in these like parliamentary governments is, or these governments that have multiple parties represented, they form fairly large coalitions that more or less they'd be like, when push comes to shove, it kind of comes down to two big coalitions. And yeah, you lose and gain, but the point is you don't have 40 radically different factions that have like an equal voice fighting. A lot of the time you kind of get it down to a couple larger main political kind of movements, and then the parties within them kind of form coalitions around them, right? So if the Democrats had any interest in forming a coalition or just saying, hey, the Green Party has a right to exist outside of us, but in certain instances we can give and take, make our interests align and work together, which again, it could result in basically the Democrats and Republicans controlling everything still because they have all the money and just other smaller parties exist within for coalitions, whatever. I'm not saying everything will work out perfectly, but still, perhaps this is the kind of, kick in the rear the Democrats need to realize that getting sued by the Green Party in states because you're having people call individuals, random citizens who signed a petition, and you're calling these people under false pretense and pretending to be calling from the Green Party or the government, neither of which are real, calling on the behalf of the Democrats instead, and requesting they remove their name from the petition to prevent the Green Party from showing up on the ballot, right? Maybe if they can move from there to just not this level of obstruction, there'd be a higher chance of a hopefully more competitive political market where we don't feel like we have to just accept getting a million spam emails from the Speaker of the House every single day, right? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if our government officials had enough shame where the Speaker of the House would say, 26 emails in 21 days, all of which just shamelessly asking for money? Maybe that's tacky, Maybe that's kind of gross and shows like a really low level of respect for voters. Maybe it feels like I'm just using my voters as a piggy bank and they'll realize that, right? Because right now we're not getting there. But that's, I do this every single time, so I don't want to go on too long, and I just keep going on for more and more again. But that was largely what I wanted to talk about. Just kind of, again, remind people to just keep your eyes open, pay attention. This is going to get crazier. It's not going to come down. We're going to be seeing, this is probably going to appear quaint and be forgotten by the time we get to November. The stuff we're going to be seeing I'm predicting. It's my idea. I can't say 1,000% for sure, but It's because, just I guess to leave on this, once again highlighting the fact that President's 80, excuse me, Nancy Pelosi, I think it's like 80 or 81, and behind her, Senate President pro tempore Patrick Lee, whatever, doesn't matter, is also over the age of 80. Getting hammered in the elections like this and losing everything, I mean, this is the end for these old people that are in charge of the Democrats, right? I mean, Dianne Feinstein, she's running for election again. Or no, I don't think she's rerunning, but she would be 90 years old if she won her next Senate term, right? I mean, a lot of these people legitimately might not live to the next presidential election. And even the ones who do probably aren't going to be there for the 2026 midterms. I mean, this is kind of it for them. And this is what it looks like, And again, like for reference, this is what the House looks like today. Right? Democrats with a fairly comfortable lead. And by the end of the year, it could look a lot more like this. So yeah. So on that note, though, we'll leave it on that. Just keep your eyes peeled. I can't promise for when or what I'll be talking about next. But just keep your eyes peeled. I will be definitely showing up on streams again over the next little while here as I continue to just get my schedule set up in a way where I can do the same kind of consistent uploads. And also, I'm still working to get Cardin on remotely if possible, and then also hopefully remotely if possible. We'll leave it at that. Other than that, though, hope you guys all had a great day. Anyone came by to join again, appreciate it so much. You have no idea. I always appreciate seeing you guys in chat and just seeing people here. And as always, please remember, if you disagreed with anything I said at all, to thumbs down this video and leave an angry comment. Other than that, I hope you guys all have a great day.